Hello, everyone, and welcome back after a very, very long wait to another day, another album. And today, and for approximately the rest of the entire month, we're going to dedicate an entire video essay going track by track through one of the most memorable albums of the 2010s.
Inhale the memes, exhale the memes, inject the memes into my bloodstream. There are good memes and there are bad memes. Why has God abandoned us?
Yep, I'm really doing this. We're talking about the second or first album, depending, of Pink Guy, Pink Season. And if you're on YouTube, yes, the video is that long. There's a lot in this album. So the next question naturally is, why? Why in the mother of fuck should you watch this video about a shitty meme album from 2017? Honestly, what inspired me in part was the iDub situation that had blown up somewhat recently when I had started writing this, and some of the takes that people had about it made me think about his frequent collaborator and the subject of this dive, Filthy Frank, aka Pink Guy, currently known today as Joji, and the largest legacy of his old comedic work, Pink Season. iDubbbz is actually a pretty significant part of Joji's early YouTube career, and I'll touch a little bit on that YouTube career in the next part. Also, it's good to do some reflecting on the internet of 2016 to 2017. Those were my teenage years. So while today y'all kids do your TikTok dances and make blown out deep fried meme audios that make me feel old as shit, back in my day, we watched YouTubers be creepy, racist, and do things they'd apologize for years later. It was a very different time, and I will say some absolutely funny shit came out of that whole era, but it had its problems and it had its critics at the time, many of whom would prove to be right in the long run, in all honesty. But at the same time, it's nothing unique to this generation. From The Simpsons to South Park, controversial becomes at best benign and at worst incredibly dated and tasteless. And the third reason I did this is because fuck y'all, I wanted to. I wrote that line actually as a joke at the very start of this script when I wanted this video out in June for my birthday month, but this is easily going to be my biggest video ever in terms of scope. I kind of did do this as a joke at first, but honestly, the more I wrote, it just kept getting bigger and bigger until I just couldn't not make it. So much effort went into this that it just had to be made. I also realized that this series could get blocked in parts on TikTok, so I encourage everyone to check out the link tree in my bio and follow the YouTube page for the hopefully uncut edition if you are interested in listening to all that. So, how exactly did we get here? So today we know Joji as the provider of some of the best emo anthems of the last few years, with songs like Glimpse of Us, Slow Dancing in the Dark, Yeah Right, and more. But back in 2016 to 2017, we on the internet knew Joji as Filthy Frank. I'm not sure if I can possibly describe Filthy Frank to anyone who wasn't there for it. He was this character that was so outlandishly stupid and offensive that you just had to watch it if you were in the know. Frank would often rant vlog style about things in his life that bothered him, from vegans to weeaboos to people on the internet in general. When it came to Filthy Frank, no one was safe. And I do mean no one. Slurs were a frequent occurrence on his page, and they were pretty diverse on their selection as well. You know, kind of the whole, I'm gonna be racist, but I'm gonna be racist to everyone type thing. This video series eventually got so convoluted that it began having its own lore with many different characters, all played by Joji. The relevant one for this discussion is Pink Guy, arguably the most popular character outside of Frank himself. Pink Guy was known for being Frank at some of his most outlandish, pranking people in public with his out there behavior, speaking mostly nonsense throughout most of the videos, and, most importantly, being the musical presence of the group of characters that Joji would create. Pink Guy would take the lead in most of the musical endeavors of Joji at that time, mainly consisting of a few one-off comedy singles to the release of his self-titled mixtape, Pink Guy. And that mixtape is okay. Honestly, the only song I remember off of it was Kill Yourself, which, take a guess. Take a guess what that's about. Beyond this, though, Pink Guy would be responsible for one of the biggest cultural sensations of the 2010s, the incredibly dated internet trend of the Harlem Shake. Talking about the Harlem Shake is interesting because honestly the closest thing I can compare it to is the Macarena, because looking back, it's kind of what it was. It was a popular trend quickly co-opted by corporations and lame white people, in all honesty, to the point where I legally have to include a mention of this stupid ass trend when talking about Pink Guy. And I mean, this was big. Like bigger than Old Town Road big, and it was very obnoxious very quickly, at least in my opinion. But considering the music we're about to get into, I find it more kind of funny to remember that Pink Guy would be the one to start this trend than anyone else, and we'll get into why that's funny later. Pink Guy would continue to put out singles through the TV Filthy Frank channel, eventually building up to January of 2017, with the release of the very album we're about to talk about. Alright, so the opening track of Pink Season is called Hot Nickel Ball on a Pussy, and the title alone lets you know what you're basically going to be in for the entire album. The beat actually isn't that bad. It could sound honestly fairly good on a serious song, which is kind of a common thing throughout the album. I think that quite a bit of this album actually sonically sounds good, and it showcases a lot of musical talent on the part of Pink Guy, and even some previews to the Joji that we know today. But for now, we are getting all of that through the lens of 2017 meme humor. The vocal performance isn't that out of place even in today's music. It feels like rage music but made completely ironically. I will say it's still better than that last Destroy Lonely album. The flow isn't the worst on the song. I guess it fits the sound of those Red Hot Nickel Ball videos from back in the day, but I do feel kind of weird thinking about that in this context. The lyrics start disgusting, and they really let you know what you're in for. I'm probably not going to quote a lot of lyrics in this series, and if you listen to them, you know why. And the emphasis on little on this song is concerning, and will only get worse throughout the album, so yeah, get prepped for that too. The vocals are mixed terribly, and the autotune is so thin, purposefully working at least for this joke of a bit. I personally think this song isn't that funny or memorable, but I guess it's a good indicator for what's to come. So we got 34 more tracks to go. The next track is called Are You Serious? And this track is one of the more serious songs on the album. Pink Guy is of course a bit wacky and gross, as is the case throughout the album, but the song is actually presented relatively straight-faced, from the beat to the brag rap's lyrics. For starters, this beat is a absolute banger. The plucks go hard and the drums hit, and this is actually a pretty good sounding song. The lyrics aren't out the gate fucked. They actually sound like they'd be serious coming from anyone who wasn't Pink Guy, but they're not bad. There are a few other songs on the album like this, and I will say most of these tracks are my favorites and the ones that I think kind of hold up the best. The lyrics don't exactly change the game or anything, but Pink Guy can carry a good beat and shows his talent in the performance in the music. His performance here is actually kind of admirable. He's got a good flow for this type of song, and the lyrics are so out there at times that it definitely shows that his parody of rap here is coming from a place of love. And I will say, intent is a major part of this entire album shtick. And if you don't believe the intent, which is valid, considering the depths of depravity of this album, this entire album is not going to work for you. To be honest, speed the song up a bit, and it wouldn't sound out of place coming out of Detroit nowadays. I think Baby Trauma would go crazy on this song.
1,000 on the road when the whip hit the street. Though I got a hit, pint of red, think he sipping pink. Think you up, that's a dream, boy, you still asleep. Wake your ass up. Ryan Cullinan like fuck a lamb truck. Quakey Yankee got me stuck, I can't stand up. I'll run it up, sitting down. Always feel like somebody's watching this a blinker.
Well, this song is called Is Right. A little bit of background for this song. This song is arguably the most fucked on the entire album. So fucked that you can't find this on Spotify and it's only available on YouTube and SoundCloud. Hard R, slurs are dropped, unabashed racism, incest. This song has got all the necessary components to be classified as problematic. That being said, God, I kind of love this song, because shockingly, I too was an edgy teenager at one point in time. I actually wrote an entire paper for my media literacy class in college about this song and got a motherfucking A for it. So I will say the cow noises and the banjo are just an iconic opening for me. And in case the humor wasn't exactly made clear earlier in the album, you'll definitely know from the first line. Once again, the intent here is pretty clear from the "I'm really fucking stupid" lines at the beginning. He's calling these views fucking stupid, and the stories and the verses of the racist hick and the trust fund white boy both being on this song are actually kind of satirical of the fact that their views are couched together commonly and with reason. The same motivations that feed into bigotry are often the same as those who perpetuate violence against women. Both verses approach it from different ways, but they both believe the same things and share this song together for a reason. Can you see why I got an A on the paper about this? Honestly, because all the slurs are basically against me, I can still sing every word. The beat goes hard though. This song is so outwardly stupid and offensive that it isn't really worth taking seriously, mainly from the fact that he states that this is satire. That being said, nothing on this song is worth defending, and I wouldn't argue against anyone who rightfully sees this as repugnant. Outside of the slightly catchy beat, nothing really redeems this song, but God, is that fucking stupid ass chorus catchy. Don't listen to this. Up next is the aptly titled "I Have a Gun." And guess what the song's about? Guess. Come on. Say it to the phone. Yep, this song is about gun control. The lyrics do point to someone who's braggadocious with their weapon to the point of absurdity, but the song also connects that egotisms to literal school shootings, which, if this is intentional, does say a bit about how we in America feel about guns. And if not, it was very much written like a song that does. The production here is definitely a lot cheaper than some of the other songs, but I do like the style of the song. This beat, if it were taken seriously, would actually, once again, go pretty hard. And that's kind of the thing with this album. Many of my favorite songs from this are the ones that showcase some level of talent, whether it be in performance, production, general sound, vibe, etc. And while the purposely bad songs like this are kind of a cheap laugh and occasionally tap into actual satire, which incidentally is why I think this project is more than just an excuse to drop offensive jokes and slurs, these joke songs are where this album shows its age the most. The overblown gunshots are kind of funny though, but honestly the song is so short there isn't really that much more to say about it, which is true for quite a bit of the tracks I'm going to talk about. It's a cheap laugh, but nothing memorable. At least memorable like what we've got coming next. So the next song is called Nickelodeon Girls, which first off, oof, fucking oof, motherfucking oofers. This song is really going to be out of taste now, which is not to say that it ever was in taste, even at the time. But I guess I gotta address the Dan Schneider stuff first with this song. Knowing what we know now about the abuse that happened at Nickelodeon, this song feels like it's reading the mind of someone who enjoys the shows that Dan Schneider made, which saying that made me feel gross and sad. Also, mentioning Jeanette McCurdy by name a lot on this song, and yeah, it's a little different in 2023 than it did in 2017. Honestly, considering her amazing book, I'm Glad My Mom Died, which is a great book and I highly recommend the audio version, this song reads a lot more awkward today, and I really hope that she's never even heard this song. I'm not going to go into too much detail lyrically, because neither of us need that in our lives, but it's repulsive and offensive exactly as you'd expect, dipping into some blatant not great stuff. Sonically, the song actually sounds pretty good, and with a great beat, great build-up in the chorus, and the flow of the song is actually pretty strong. I said earlier that the lyrics do hit different, but I do want to emphasize that this song was disgusting back then, and very much is now. There's kind of a disclaimer bit in the lyrics that does feel kind of necessary to spell out, but there is a morbid part of me that doesn't want to be there. To be clear, it'd be irresponsible and stupid not really to include, but also, if we're dropping hard R's by the third song, no one really should be taking this seriously. Any of this. Although the key word is should, and I wonder if that's going to matter later. The next song is STFU, and it's actually a song I do listen to somewhat on the regular, because it expresses a universal situation that every human being has been through. You, me, and everyone else watching this. A stupid bitch who needs to shut the fuck up. Some things are truly timeless. The trap beat on the acoustic guitar is actually really good, and again, shows that there is definitely musical competency displayed here and throughout the album. The ad-libs fit well, Pink Guy's performance is pretty calm and collected for once, and the song legitimately sounds good. It may not be much, but it does make this song feel a lot less dated. At least until the edgy lyrics of wishing death upon someone's children via cancer comes up. The chorus, honestly, it's legendary. It's catchy, simple, it reminds someone to shut their goddamn mouth for once in their fucking life. This is the type of song that you could actually play around people and not get stared at too much. The verses are very 2016 era internet insults, telling someone to off themselves, no one cares that they're alive, eat a dick, etc., etc. It's actually quite tame considering the lengths this album will go to for its offensive humor, but honestly, it gives the listener a second to breathe from all the edginess going on so far. The end of the second verse is actually particularly funny though, if a bit dated with the Zika reference, but I mean, I still find it funny. Does anyone remember? Y'all remember Zika? Am I just old? Like, we had shit before COVID too, like Zika. Does anyone remember swine flu? SARS? Anyone remember SARS? All right, time to get political with the next song, Gays for Donald. First off, this beat is like a Future type beat, right? Like, I could seriously imagine Future on this instrumental around his Dirty Sprite 2 days.
Fuck us promise. Let's fuck us promise, yeah. Let's fuck us promise. Let's fuck us promise, yeah.
Also, the ad-libs and the heavy slather of autotune on the vocals, this really could have been stolen off of a producer working with Future's hard drive. But it does showcase a lot of talent on Joji as a musician to be able to emulate this style so well. Lyrically, the joke is basically the one in the title, a common feature throughout the album. But the lengths that this song goes really does the joke justice. It goes into explicit detail about what this Trump for lifer would do for the former president. Grindr opening message explicit. That's a little joke for the gays out there. A part of me wonders if Trump has any gay fans like this. And please don't prove it to me if he does. I don't need my day ruined like that. Per usual, a flurry of slurs are dropped, this time expanding from just black and LGBT slurs to include many other nationalities. All-inclusive racism right here, which as part of the joke is mostly at the expense of racist Trump supporters who Joji imagines would proudly say these things. This is another point of intent, but it is hard to call it supportive of inclusiveness with this high of a slur per capita. The moment when he starts laughing in the middle of his performance is one of the funniest moments of the song though. And honestly, I do find this song entertaining and one of the more memorable moments on the album to this day. But it shows some of the difficulties that come with making satire. With time, the actual joke can fade to the point where people don't read any deeper than the surface level text. And this will come up quite a few times later as well. Overall though, Gays for Donald is a fucking banger. It's a fucking banger. It's an offensive banger with nothing really worth defending, but I mean, it goes hard. Up next, Pink Guy pulls out an anthem for his hood on the interlude track, I Do It For My Hood. Once again, come on, we can play this guessing game of what the song is about. And what's that? Okay, good, because this song's about selling cocaine. The beat here is actually somewhat decent. It sounds like it really could have been from like a Cardi or an Uzi song, especially from this 2016-2017 time period. Money Longer era Uzi, I think, would have absolutely killed on this beat.
It do not matter. Turn to a savage, pocket got fatter, she got me daddy. Smoking that gas.
The production outside of the instrumental, however, is once again terrible. Mixed very thin and vocally slapped together, and the joke is mostly in the title. Pink Guy spends the majority of the song proclaiming that he does indeed do it for his hood, and it he's doing is selling cocaine. There's a line about it in the second verse that legit made me laugh out loud re-listening to this, going like,
I'm selling cocaine in the streets like a grocery, except it's not groceries, it's cocaine!
It's a fucking bar, and I'm totally going to reference it in one of my own songs one day. It's a fun little moment on the album. Nothing too special, but it made me laugh at least. You know, because I too do it for my own. Up next is another interlude with a very on-the-nose title, Please Stop Calling Me Gay. I mean, personally, I just prefer to not be called a fag. I mean, the beat is indeed monstrous, with every element of the song blown out to hell. If you've got subs in your car and you want to absolutely just fucking murk them, this is the song to do it. The joke in the title is expanded on a bit, but not as in-depth as songs like Gays for Donald or White is Right, which may be to its benefit. It keeps this awful sounding song very short, which is necessary. Overall, it sounds like a middle schooler arguing that they are totally not gay, aka this was me when I was 13, and oh, little did she know how wrong she was. Up next, we get a sneak peek into the future with the song She's So Nice. The satire here is a lot stronger, since it's a joke on mismatched choruses and verses in rap music. Plus, as alluded to earlier, the song gives us an early taste of the artist we know today as Joji. I personally love the juxtaposition between the chorus and the verse. The verses are as stupid and out there as you would expect, but the layered reverb chorus really makes this song a bit more memorable and a bit more funny in a way. Pink Guy's loud shouting delivery mixed with what easily could have been an early draft of a Joji chorus once again show the talent that Joji is putting into this project, even if it's not necessarily shown in the best light. This song is also the most streamed on Spotify for Pink Guy in general, with 66 million streams as of July of 2023. It's not a terrible song, and I will say its humor holds up a lot more than other moments on the album, but it is still kind of an odd pick for me. The beat here would legitimately go hard if it were better mixed. It's bad, but purposely bad enough to be enjoyable, and I would compare to one of those worst beat of all time videos. What the fuck is this beat? So the next interlude track is called Please Stop Touching My Willy. This is probably the first song where I can't even get a cheap laugh out of it or like a super offensive laugh. This song just makes me feel weird. And it's 30 seconds long, so I don't really have much to say, and I don't want to say more. So let's move on, shall we? Alright, so the next song, Uber Pussy, takes us back to the usual pace of the album with racist impressions and a beat that's far too good for the material that it's getting. This beat is honestly pretty good outside of the kind of loud hi-hats. The flute on the song and the simple drum rhythm is actually really catchy. The lyrics are racist, but kind of nonsensically racist, if that makes sense. At least until the Indian vocal chant comes in later in the song. Lyrically, it's a mix of Filthy Frank's running pussy joke with Pink Guy, but that aspect really doesn't translate well into song, considering I'm sure it makes no sense to anyone outside of people who are in my age range and were chronically online and watch Filthy Frank. You know, like I did at that age. The screaming line is legit funny though, and it's a very stupid fun song. And I will say, he does clarify that everything in this song is all with consent, which I mean, it ain't much, but it's something. So the next song is titled completely in Japanese, and as to not embarrass myself on camera, here's the text for it, and it apparently translates to "I love sex." The beat is another cheap instrumental, which means that once again it's time for another really tough listen. And as expected from the title, we're in Japanese, so inherently I just can't understand anything. Apparently, the song is about sex. Shocking, I know. While I didn't directly translate all the apparently incredibly horny lyrics, the yelled sex ad-libs clued the listener into the subject of the song. As I've said quite a few times already, I'm not Japanese, so I'm not sure what lines were crossed throughout the song, but I'm sure multiple were from the pace of this album so far. This was also the most played portion of the album on YouTube, apparently, and if you know why, please tell me in the comments, because I honestly think this is a pretty forgettable track, which is funny to say about an album I'm going to Men in Black myself out of remembering after this. We're back to a somewhat serious song now from Pink Guy, relating to food with the next track, Dumplings. Most of the serious songs on this album take the name of food, which normally have corresponding outlandish music videos on the Filthy Frank channel itself. I mentioned earlier that these tracks often hold up best, and this song is absolutely no exception. To start, this beat fucking knocks. The bass goes crazy, the pan banging sounds amazing, and the hats really dial into the kind of cool mood of the track. Pink Guy's flow is kind of fucking awesome on this song, in all honesty. This really could have been legitimately a hit if it was released outside of this project. Lyrically, it's nothing particularly unique. It's pretty standard trap rap of the time, but he does it really well for someone who's not an already established mainstream rap artist. But his Migos-inspired flow is executed amazingly. This is one of the few songs with structure too. Many of the songs mentioned thus far forego traditional structure to keep the jokes mostly short enough to do their jobs. This is another thing that is to the album's benefit though, as when a song does have hooks, the hooks on many of those tracks are some of the most memorable parts of the project, and the ones that hold up the most. Dumplings goes hard, one of the few things I can recommend from this project. I refuse to explain this song.
They call me the meme machine. I catch the memes, I spread the memes, I eat the memes, I shit the memes. Without memes, I will die. Inhale the memes, exhale the memes, inject the memes into my bloodstream. There are good memes, and there are bad memes. Why has God abandoned us?
We once again return to the absurdities of hip-hop with the next track, Hand on My Gat. This song is actually Joji playing a different character from Pink Guy, however, as this song features the Filthy Frank lore character Politics with a Z. Without going too into the lore of Francis of the Filth, Politics was introduced in a Filthy Frank video about bad SoundCloud rappers, and honestly, I really liked this character back in the day. Unrelated, but y'all should stream my Gang 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 remix out on SoundCloud. The beat, unfortunately, is another thin and bad production job, and some very one-note rhymes to continue the character's joke in song. And I think he does an effective job of bringing that across. I do kind of wish the instrumental was a bit stronger because, at least in my experience, because SoundCloud artists normally pay a few bucks to get a much better beat from someone else, or they steal from YouTube. Not me though. I stole my first beat from Logic, like the rapper, and now I just make them myself. Be sure to stream AMAB and to pre-save Transhumanist Agenda in the link where links are. Latent self-promotion, baby. This song should establish a new rule for music, however. Your song has to be better than this song to post on SoundCloud. This is now the official rule. It's a pretty low bar to reach, so hey, maybe you need to get your SoundCloud account up and running. To quote a personal favorite song of mine from this year. So, Up next is Dick Wet 1, another shoddy song interlude running at less than a minute long. Funny enough, I actually think this beat is the exact first beat I made when I first got FL Studio. Honestly, there's not much to say about the song itself. It's stupid sex humor operating at the level that this entire is operating at. Although I will say the feminism, the pussy's in charge line is kind of a bar though. Another classic of heavy problematic nature, today we get into conspiracy theories and blatant anti-Semitism with Flex Like David Icke. I would go into a description of who David Icke is, but this one line in Wikipedia brings it across pretty well. Critics have accused Icke of being anti-Semitic and a Holocaust denier, with his theories of reptilians serving as deliberate code. He apparently denies this, saying that he literally means that the elite are actual reptiles. But considering the man is a Holocaust denier, I'm not taking him at his word. Although it is kind of funny to imagine someone being like, no, I actually mean like the elite are fucking reptiles. Stupid. The beat is a legit banger, with the synths and bass bringing 2016 trap to the absurd when the chorus of Flex Like David Icke going into conspiracy theories from aliens, faking the moon landing, and Icke's trademark blatant Holocaust denial. Good times. Honestly, I think you'd have to be missing both the point of the album or even just having basic media literacy to say that these beliefs are being taken seriously at all. But the issue with the lyrics, besides being dated shock humor wise, is that in the year of our Lord 2023, people take this seriously. My problem with it isn't necessarily what he's saying or who's laughing at it, but it matters if people are laughing at it because he's telling the truth. All that said, this has been one of my favorite songs from the album, with the trap hats and some of the hardest bass of any song ever, the yelping delivery, and the absolutely infectious hook. This song is the embodiment of using your musical talents for evil, and the satire at the expense of the weirdos who believe this shit honestly is still just as potent as when it released. Honestly, you throw some QAnon references, it could have came out in the last few years. Also, it's interesting to hear him use the term stay woke on this song, which the funny thing is, around this time, I heard that term more in reference to crackpot conspiracy theories like these, more than I had heard anyone use it to refer to like progressive politics or anything like that, or whatever the hell conservatives decide that woke means today. Overall, God, this song goes way harder than it should for referencing a fucking Nazi. Up next, we move away from rap into the snottiest of snot-nosed pop punk with High School Blink 193. Honestly, the instrumental's kind of fire here. The mix is a bit muddy, but the instrumental performance is on the better side of what's on this album, especially for the more joke-oriented songs. It does sound like every Blink-182 and early Green Day song put together, but honestly, this could have been a hell of a lot worse. The performance is about everything I'd have expected from this album so far. Getting called fat, lunch money being stolen, with included bully dialogue, and the delivery of your local punks in your nearest Midwest town. This is another song where there's not much to say about the song, running at only 1.5 minutes, and the jokes being relatively obvious. It made me giggle a bit, nowhere near the worst of this album, but this is another song where its short length is to its benefit. We now return to the less satirical food-based tracks with Rice Balls, which sees Pink Guy getting back into his brag rap bag without too many of the slurs and outlandish offensiveness so far. This beat goes hard, unironically. The sample flip in the intro is absolutely great. The horn sample is catchy with some deep bass, the rhythm is on point, and the bridge of this song is actually legitimately gorgeous. This is easily in the running for one of the best sounding songs on the album and a personal favorite of mine from the food related tracks. This is also one of the few songs that could be legitimately argued to be a serious song, or at least as serious as Pink Guy is capable of. There are a lot of comical bars in line with a lot of this album, but a majority of the song is actually pretty solid flows, if a bit basic on the lyrics. Pink Guy is bragging and talking his shit. And honestly, he's doing it better than most. The outro in particular is super funny in retrospect. Joji kind of breaks character to impersonate those who complain about not getting real music. We want Joji music. And then he goes on a little rant about how it's all real music and it's also not really his problem. It is kind of funny looking back though, because Joji would famously drop the Pink Guy and Filthy Frank content not long after the release of the album, which is pretty ironic from how he talks about it here, like he's going to keep doing this. This song did come out almost 2 years before the album did, however, which I think kind of shows how this content would eventually take a toll on Joji over a relatively short amount of time following this album's release. So, I'm definitely on a list now for listening to this song. So let's talk about Dora the Explorer. This song makes Nickelodeon girls look modest by comparison. Right out the gate, sexualizing motherfucking Dora the Explorer. And it's like that right at the start too, with two perverts talking about how hot she is, leading into the opening lines. Honestly, this is the first song I heard in the re-listen that I was kinda shocked to hear. But the points where he says lines like, "This is really inappropriate," don't exactly save the song from extremely graphic lyrics of with a literal 4-year-old. They do show intentionality in the lyrics, but dear God, is it harder to take here than even the fucking Nazi conspiracy theory song. I would be remiss, however, as to not mention the actual satire of the song, when Pink Guy says that it's not creepy because he's a human and Dora is a drawing, which is unfortunately something that people actually believe. And if you are one of those people, I want you to understand that this song is what you sound like when you're making that argument. Ugh. The beat is decent, if a bit cheap. With a bit of polishing, I could actually legitimately hear someone like Ludacris on this beat. It's very southern and would be catchy if it weren't attached to a song that I now need to scrub from my brain, hopefully for the rest of my life. Even though the satire is apt, this song just makes me feel like I need a shower. Please give me some good ear bleach songs in the comments. I need to wash this song out of my head. This project's taken so fucking much out of me, and so after that whole Dora the Explorer ideal yesterday, I'm surprisingly relieved to see a song called SMD, or just Suck My Dick. This beat actually goes pretty hard here too. The horn sample is cool, the drums are pretty trap standard, and this is actually a pretty good vocal performance from Pink Guy. His yell delivery on the chorus reminds me a lot of artists like Future or the early Migos tracks. The flows on the verse are, once again, solid as well, but stay mostly box standard to rap, even down to calling the listener effect. Considering some level of offensiveness is the case for just about every song here though, this is one of the more tame and better songs on the album. Honestly, this song doesn't really have much in the way of jokes beyond the absurdity to which Pink Guy takes the references to oral sex. But the song actually plays a very important role in an album for me. The palate cleanser. Any long album like this is going to have its more potent moments, and after those, it's hard to go straight into another big song, or in this case, a very big stupid song. So some artists will put songs that I would categorize as songs to get readjusted to in the track list. Another example of this from one of my favorite albums would be like Junior coming before Believe What I Say on Donda, or You Ain't Gotta Lie coming right after Blacker the Berry on T-Pav. These tracks are more to kind of come down from the previous song and prepare you for what's coming next. And I think that this song kind of does that, except in a more humorous way. So, this next song is called Dog Festival Instructions, and it's a ukulele song! It's not Joji's apology for this entire thing, of course, but directions on how to acquire and eat dogs you know, like a fucking monster. I'm gonna be honest, I have really been trying to talk around some of the more explicit stuff on this album and not quoting lyrics verbatim, which is why a lot of these videos have been shorter than videos I've made in the past. But I really can't avoid doing that here, so I'll save it for the YouTube cut. So, for my YouTube viewers, this song is about the annual dog-eating festival in the Guangxi province of China, which set me down a Wikipedia rabbit hole for far too long. Short of it is, this is actually a real thing. It was actually started fairly recently, with the first dog festival occurring in 2009 and continuing yearly until maybe 2020. And I say maybe because Wikipedia mentions that this festival is still ongoing, but with no references that I could find to any recent reporting on this festival after 2020. A few of the articles have pointed out that this festival has no basis in Chinese tradition or beliefs or anything like that, and it is not representative of even the area it takes place in, as a 2016 survey found that 64% of Chinese citizens want to see an end to this festival. At this point, I hadn't moved past the first line, but this shit was so fucking wild, I couldn't not talk about it somewhere at least. The song, however, is literally just instructions on how to attend this event. Rhyming be damned, down to pricing out the approximate costs of things like transportation and lodging, as well as tips to stay safe while traveling in China. Instrumentally, it's a ukulele song. Very basic, relatively inoffensive, ironically, unlike the lyrics, which are, once again, about to eating dog. 22 tracks in, and we actually get a moment of genuine expression and emotion, and a full glimpse into the direction that Joji would take his music after this album, with the song We Fall Again. And this isn't a joke this time or anything, like something like Are You Serious? This is actually a genuine love song on Pink Season. For starters, the instrumental sounds like a Joji demo. The lo-fi drums, the layered vocals, the light ukulele faded in the background. This all definitely rings of Joji in his early Will He era. It's definitely an early view of Joji, before he would lean more into the depressive sounds of songs like Slow Dancing in the Dark or Yeah Right. But it is a great peek into the artist that Pink Guy would turn into. As referred to earlier, lyrically, this is actually a sincere and earnest love song with no jokey lyrics outside of maybe using the word fuck once, but even then it's not really played as a joke. And it is a genuine expression of emotion. The lyrics are simple and abstract, just musing about the feelings of falling in love. But Joji makes the mundane even sound gorgeous. Somehow this song escapes the entire rest of the album to become one of the best moments musically throughout the entire project. It is also the most tolerable and honestly maybe the only moment of like true beauty that can be found on this album, in my opinion. I hope the next song will completely ruin the tone and ruin my hearing with the terrible mixing. Hey, look, I got exactly what I asked for yesterday. A song that isn't serious and completely ruins my hearing from how quiet the last song was. And this track is called Club Banger 3000. This is an instrumental interlude that sounds like a kid playing around with an NPC. Random hats and heys, literally simple horn and bass line, and it's all completely off rhythm. As a producer, this feels like taking the piss out of beginning beats people post online, and there is a part of me that can't not find it funny to some extent. While this song does sound terrible, this is the type of track that probably was a lot of fun to make, in all honesty. Probably with a few beers down and with some friends. It made me laugh at least, but there isn't that much more to say about it. Up next, the ukulele comes back for its best song in my opinion, Help, a lyrically and stylistically mismatched track about a genuine cry for help. I actually kind of take this as another honest moment in the similar vein as We Fall Again, but this time it's more referential to the album that it's on. Looking at the type of person who'd be stereotyped as liking this kind of edgy, dated music back in 2017, you know, the dysfunctional internet weirdos who want to die. Which, I mean, if that's not Gen Z, I don't know what is. Instrumentally, I do actually like the song. It's produced well, the riff is catchy, and the chorus and bridge are absolutely sticky. It's a bit simple, but I commend Pink Guy making a song this basic sound distinct and memorable. Lyrically, the song is of course incredibly depressing, but not gonna lie, I've been there. Various health issues, not taking care of yourself, and masking your pleas for help in good times. This is an anthem for all fellow depressives, written by someone who's obviously gone through it. The bridge is probably my favorite part of the song when Pink Guy yells, "Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to fucking kill yourself, put your fucking hands up." And it gives it gives a kind of intentional moment of comedy, similar to that one Logic Suicide Hotline number song, you know, the "Who could relate? Woo!" The song's incredibly depressing. The next song is called Hentai. Y'all have no right to say I didn't warn you about this shit. The pluck sample kind of works on the song along with the bass, but there isn't too much to say sonically. Lyrically, I think Joji likes hentai, as he references his unhealthy obsession with it at the center of every line rapped at the first part of the song. Then the song turns back into a ukulele vibe, and at this point I'm actually kind of getting sick of the fucking ukulele. It's not necessarily a bad portion of the song, but I wish that these ukulele tracks were a bit more spread out rather than all being in this one section. It's a one-note joke song that didn't need to be as long, and also has Joji nutting at the end. Up next, another classic banger. Small Dick is the anthem for those less endowed, or should I say those who act like they're less endowed on the internet. You know the type. The beat on this is noisy, clipping, and obviously more of a joke beat, like much of this album. But I think if early XXXTentacion or Ski Mask Some God heard this, they'd be able to make an absolute banger from this beat. Especially the blown out bass. It reminds me a lot of tracks like, I think it was called Teeth, or Look at Me, for example. Lyrically, the song is exactly what you'd expect, having a small dick. And Pink Guy's yell delivery with layers of slathered autotune. Obviously, he's not taking this track too seriously, even down to breaking out a Cleveland Brown impression by the end of the song before cutting it off, thank God. This song is incredibly accurate to the pointless random dick measuring contests throughout comment sections across the internet. Not only is it stupid to get into these fucking arguments in the first place, but like, especially, I don't know if it was just like a thing when I was a teenager, but like, I see people lie on the internet, be like, oh, my dick is like 13 inches. Like, that's one, relevant, or two, even desirable. Like, literally ask any woman, cis, trans, whatever, 13 inches is not desirable. Jesus Christ. The song is actually kind of fun, and I do kind of like it, but men, please remember that this is what y'all sound like when you're trying to prove you're more of a man than some other rando in the comment section on the internet. Just don't do it. Or at least don't take that shit to heart, because that shit will mess you up and make you start taking this song seriously. How did I have this much to say about the song Small Dick? Up next, we actually get a break from all these short interludes and joke songs with Pink Life. This is once again one of the more serious songs, although this time not relating to food, but I would say this is the biggest of these serious songs, having some actual structure and an actually fire hook towards the end. The beat starts good with the sample flip and trap hats and gets better as it goes along. The beat actually goes through some great changes throughout its runtime, and this would easily be one of the best beats for a lot of rappers. Lyrically, Pink Guy is once again talking his rap shit, and he once again does it very well. The flows here are on point. The song isn't really blatantly offensive at all, actually, and Pink Guy actually has some great bass on the chorus. This may actually be a legit song that you could be safe to play around people. You know, if you're a weirdo with weirdo friends who listen to 2017 shock comedy, at least. The lyrics are once again simple, like many of these serious songs. He does make it work here the most with his flow. Honestly, it's one of the best songs on the album, even if it is a little bit basic. And it also got me thinking, while I like the artistic direction that Joji has gotten into to this point, listening to tracks like these do maybe kind of wish he just put out a rap album, because I don't think he'd be half bad at it if they sound half as good as this. Hey yo, Earth 2 just dropped. as the next track we're talking about is called Another Earth. This is one of the more jokey songs, and the beat is once again taking the piss, this time sounding like a Young Thug beat from around the Jeffrey era, which is intentional as the opening chorus is just fuck Young Thug. Once again, unintentionally showing the insight Joji had into the future back in 2017. Basically what I'm saying is that Pink Guy is the Fed that snitched on Thugger. Lyrically, the song is literally just fuck Young Thug with some Thugger style ad-libs in the background. The flows and delivery are pretty accurate to the source material, but are still very much through the Pink Guy voice, which is to say everything about Thugger is played absolutely up to 11. There is a funny part where he ends the song with, "We're going to have some serious problems, you fucking N-word," which we're like an hour into this, and now's when you censor it. Now you censor the hard R. Also, it's kind of funny because if it weren't for the obvious pretense of this being a joke song off a joke album, the ending could actually kind of be seen as a diss to Thugger. I don't think it is, but I do think if Thugger had heard this out of context, he might have some thoughts.
Fuck Young Thug, fuck Young Thug, fuck Young Thug, fuck Young Thug. Pussy ass bitch, Young Thug, pussy ass bitch, fuck Young Thug, fuck Young Thug, fuck Young Thug, fuck Young Thug, fuck Young Thug.
Courts give counsel the benefit of the doubt.
Giddy up. Hey!
The next song is a song of Pink Guy showing his love and appreciation for the next generation. Shit, actually. Not like that. Not like the song kind of starts off scary though with the
I just want to show my appreciation to how much I love kids and teens between the ages of 12 and 17.
which, considering Nickelodeon girls and Dora the Explorer, not a promising start. But don't worry, this song doesn't go down that route, but is still pretty fucking bad. Pink Guy dedicates an acoustic guitar-centric tune to his utter hatred of edgy, chronically online teenagers, calling them dense, advocating physical parental abuse, and even down to naming the song "I Will Get a Vasectomy," because he thinks that this generation is just that stupid. His lyrics feel almost directed at the very audience for this record, especially when he just flat out says, if you're gonna be racist, at least be original. But this entire album is just music for edgy teenagers back in the late 2010s. No adult heard or listened to this outside of maybe hearing it secondhand from a teenager talking about it with another teenager. For all my fellow gamer followers, I would probably compare this album to like Postal 2 or I guess Hatred if you're a little bit younger. I don't know what edgy teenagers like now. And honestly, no, I don't really fucking want to. Don't tell me in the fucking comments. I'm not gonna listen. I may delete your comment. Fuck you. The song eventually devolves into the child of the song being beaten with a belt by his father. And yeah, you know, this is fucked up, super shocking anywhere except this album. But it is unfortunately not an uncommon message, since every generation sees the generation after as stupid and inferior. I will say the lyric of anyone under the age of 17 never speaking to him is honestly not a bad rule in general. Granted, he brings it across like a complete asshole, but hey, I get it. I have zero fucking patience for children. It's a song that can be a lot, but if you're able to not take the song too serious, it can read as a bit funny, if a bit tasteless, and ironically enough, unoriginal. Up next is another short interlude track called Fur, which is a diss track to PETA. For starters, this beat kinda go. The guitar is smooth, the drums hit, and Pink Guy is in a pretty solid groove with the beat. Lyrically, the song is a PETA diss track, going as far as to name all the rare animal skins that make up his clothing and accessories. And first off, fuck PETA. Second off, there's no second, just fuck PETA. We return to the serious food-based raps for the final time on the album with Fried Noodles. This is the last of the serious rap cuts, and honestly, this one's my favorite. Of what we've heard so far, I think that Rice Balls has the best flow, and Pink Life actually did surprise me with the quality and effort behind the song. But this song actually melds with the themes of the album and has a great hook around that concept. In the verses, Pink Guy is once again on his brag rap shit, and this time he arguably keeps his most cool and calm delivery outside of some of the more weird ad-libs. The delivery does a lot of good in keeping the track somewhat grounded, which is really helpful in this song. And that grounding carries into the chorus, which is another depressive cry for help, like Help from earlier in the album. The Joji layers are there too. The lyrics do speak to the kind of existential horror that we live every day in a slowly desensitizing world, and the strings are gorgeous on this song. The beat is also one of the best of the album. A deep horn sample keeps the feel of the song chill, with a quiet drum machine playing in the background. The chorus plays into the musicality of Joji's voice with some light twinkles and lo-fi drums. Unironically, this is some great shit. Joji ends the song saying that we shouldn't take him seriously and that he's fine and doesn't really care. I mean, it eventually kind of proved to not be so true, but that's, I think, kind of the front that comes with a lot of this project, is kind of putting on some face of, oh, I'm fine, don't take this seriously. Overall, this is one of the best songs in the album, and one I do actually listen to regularly. There isn't much from this album I can recommend, but this one I very safely can say. Definitely recommend. Go give it a listen. So Goofy's Trial is the greatest skit to ever fall on any piece of music ever.
Looks like here you were caught in broad daylight on CCTV holding an AR-7.
Yup.
So you're admitting that the man in this footage is you, correct?
Yup.
So you do admit that this very same footage right here, from the very same CCTV of you massacring a public elementary school, is you as well?
Woo, almost there. We finally end this roller coaster of edginess, cringe, and prejudice with Be Inspired, the inspirational closing track running at only a minute long. Thank Christ, this thing is finally fucking over. The beat is kinda cheap, like many of the early 2000s style beats from earlier on in the album. I actually can pin it down exactly when this beat sounds like. This beat sounds like 2008, which I say because for some reason the instrumental reminds me of Jay Sean's Down, if anyone remembers that song. Anyone? Am I just old? Lyrically, the song is an extended joke about the final track of albums being the inspiring track, breaking into random questioning about the world's problems and singing about dreams and whatnot. This is obvious camp. It's a simple joke, and it runs as long as it needs to, which is not very long. Which, thank God, we're finally done. We're finally done with this fucking album. So now that we're finally finished with this hell ride of an album, let's talk a little bit about how this album was received when it first came out. Now, this is kind of a jokey internet album, so normally there isn't really like chart placements or anything. This album was number 70 on the Billboard 200. This is real. If you go to the top 200 on January 24, 2017, right at number 70, which means this album that week was selling better than Good Kid, Mad City, The Eminem Show, Blonde, Dirty Sprite 2, Nothing Was the Same, 1989, which tell Taylor to make some better music now, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Because the Internet, and even motherfucking To Pimp a Butterfly. Granted, this was years after the release of many of these albums, which is why they're so low on the charts, but do consider that, just for a moment, more people spent money and time listening to Pink Season over all of the albums I named that week. All that is to say, the album's actually received kind of well, at least throughout the internet meme centers and like social media. I couldn't really find any professional critics talking about this album because I'm sure they had much better things to do, outside of course, Anthony Fantano, who gave it a out of 10. All the positive reactions at the time do naturally lead to the question, though, of how this album is seen today. And I actually found that going through the Rate Your Music comment section actually gave a pretty good history of the impression people had of this album. At first, it's people who are taking the album far too serious, followed by people just yelling satire like they know what it means, to more current user reviews from the 2020s that recognize it as a dated but still funny product of its time, which I would generally say most people who even remember this album would say if they liked it, at least at some point. Now, of course, as we know now, Joji would go on a different path following the release of this project, but at first it actually didn't seem like that was going to be the case. After the popularity of the album started translating into actual chart success, Joji would announce that he would actually capitalize on this with an actual concert performance as Pink Guy at South by Southwest in March of 2017. And dear God, I want to know what this show was like so bad. I really hope this video ends up in front of someone who was there, because seeing this performed live has absolutely got to be some of the most batshit things I could possibly imagine. Afterwards, Joji would say that there was a third Pink Guy project on the way, along with a, quote, long overdue tour, but that would prove not to come. Joji would announce by December of 2017 that Filthy Frank content and Pink Guy, by extension, would cease to be made. He concluded the Filthy Frank lore in a book called Francis of the Filth, and would say that his health was what made him turn away from comedy, as he physically was unable to handle the stress that his videos and his content would put on him. Joji would of course eventually turn into alt R&B on the 88 Rising label with fellow former internet meme rapper Rich Brian, leading to the many hits that I mentioned long ago at the start of this series. Honestly, from what I've seen from like live footage and whatnot, Joji still does have a little bit of that Pink Guy shitpost humor in him, but he's able to express it in a way that's actually healthier and sustainable. And as much as the shitposter in me wants to imagine a world with more Filthy Frank and more Pink Guy, personally, I'm just glad Joji is happier doing the music that he is making now and not trying to keep reliving 2017 over again. So let's ask a few questions about this album to kind of wrap things up. Has this album aged? I think it's a very obvious question. Yeah, it's very much aged. In some ways, well, and I've pointed them out where it has aged well, but others very, very badly. There were more jokes that held up, and even jokes I didn't recognize back in the day, but every relevant observation comes with at least 2 slurs and some of the worst sounds that Pink Guy could possibly muster on an album. Is this album worth anything? Obviously, cheap laughs. There's a lot of cheap laughs to be had, but I think it has many moments of legitimately good satire and clear intent. I'm not sure that the album could help the fact that the shock value that made it prominent hasn't really aged the best, but that can be said of things like South Park and Team America World Police, both things I've seen a lot on TikTok, especially this month with 4th of July having passed like 2 weeks ago as the recording of this. And most importantly, I think it's worth preserving even dated comedy like this album, because it should be remembered where edgy comedy was at this point. Honestly, edgy comedy hasn't really gone anywhere, especially on the internet. I think that edgy and dark comedy can still be funny to this day, but non-black people saying the N-word isn't original or shocking anymore. It's not 2017. And if you're one of the people who enjoys the humor because of the shock value, honestly, just grow up. It doesn't mean you have to dislike the stuff from Pink Season or disattach any of the memories you have with it, but be honest with yourself. Recognize it for what it is. It's trash. But ultimately, why? Why this album? Why the entire thing? Why did I decide to do this? At first, honestly, it was because I wanted to, and just because fuck you, I can. But now I've gone through all 35 tracks, I can now honestly say, I did it for the fucking meme. Honestly, what other music critic is going to break down fucking Pink Season song by song? No one, because no one else would be this stupid. So I'm gonna be this stupid. And honestly, now that I'm almost finished with it, kind of proud to be an idiot right now. I think I've said more than any one human should ever have to say about Pink Season over the last 9,000 words of this script. It's offensive, it's grotesque, it's stupid, and for the most part, it is mostly unlistenable. It's also occasionally witty, to this day, satirizes the very forces that made shock comedy like this popular, and in the long run would give us Joji and the many hits afterwards. Pink Season is an incredibly dated mess that was an instrumental part of my growing up and maturing. And while I like this trash, it's still trash, and it's almost impossible to recommend to anyone who wasn't there for these circumstances. When I started writing this back in June, I actually had this album rated at a 6.5, and it was mostly nostalgia-based and an incomplete opinion from not actually having listened to the entire album before now. And a lot of it came from my memories attached with these songs with me and my high school friends back in the day. After this full re-listen and deep dive though, it's a 6 out of 10. It's not much, but this is the first dive I've done where I've come out feeling worse about an album than when it started. It used to be really funny back when I was an edgy 16 to 17 year old, but a lot of the humor misses when it's been repeated by literally every edgelord on the internet since its release. It was original and shocking at the time, but unfortunately, too many people took the exact wrong messages from it and just see it as an excuse to say nigga with a hard R. All that said though, I'm still glad this album exists. It's entertaining for the first listen, and honestly, there is enough pretense to where anyone with basic media literacy skills can honestly enjoy it, at least for the dumb shock value humor it is. But also, people can be stupid, and I don't blame anyone for avoiding this project or its fans, especially anyone who still ride or die for Pink Season in 2023. And I think with that, I'm finally done. Do you have any experiences with this album or Filthy Frank? What was the worst moment on this album for you? Be sure to let me know in the comments, and I think my next album should be out by now. I've probably put something in there, something at the end of these videos. So be sure to stream Transhumanist Agenda out today on your preferred streaming service. It's probably been out for a few days, but you know, hey, better late than never. I'll see y'all for the regularly scheduled reviews. And I do mean regularly scheduled. I'm gonna go back to just reviewing stuff how I normally do for a while. So I'll see y'all for the next review. Pieces.